If you want a full Cincinnati Bengals mock draft, hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. After the Super Bowl, it is officially off-season time for all 32 professional football teams, so it's only a matter of time before we have a full mock draft coming your guys' way. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. You are watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Monday afternoon after the Super Bowl. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about some free agency, and in particular, we're going to be spending some time talking about the offensive line, really the interior of the offensive line. Certainly a spot on Cincinnati's football team that has been a struggle for several years, really ever since Joe Burrow has come into this organization. It's been a struggling point despite the fact that the front office and ownership have really allocated resources towards their offensive line throughout the years, whether through free agency or the draft. Things haven't really worked out. You still haven't gotten the production, particularly from a pass pro standpoint, that you are looking for. So obviously some adjustments need to be made. Scott Peters, of course, is being brought in to be your new offensive line coach. And I think that certainly is a very good thing for your football team. Needed to have a new voice in that offensive line room, and people have high expectations for what Scott Peters is going to have the ability to do with this Cincinnati Bengals football team. Got to be able to develop guys, right? You're not going to always be able to allocate top-of-the-line resources to the position, but when you have guys come in, you got to find out ways to develop them, and Scott Peters certainly we're hopeful that he's going to have the ability to do that. So we're going to be taking a look at some offensive line free agent targets coming up on today's show. We got 5 names for you, and we're going to start right here with Brandon Scherff, who I think certainly is intriguing if you are the Cincinnati Bengals. This is an older guy, right? He's 33 years of age. I believe he'll be 34 in December. And he was the number 5 overall pick in the 2015 NFL draft, and he was the only guard in the last 50 drafts to go in the top 5. Certainly think that is pretty impressive. Really, what I love about Scherff is the durability, right? He has 140 starts over his 10-year career. He was spent his first 7 years with the Washington Commanders and these past 3 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, so he's definitely going to be starving for a little bit of winning, right? Being with those organizations, hasn't won a ton. 5-time Pro Bowler, right? This is a guy that, has been despite the fact he hasn't been on very good teams, he has really produced for the teams that he has been on. He's a top 10 pass blocking guard for PFF in 2024. Really, that's what you're looking for Cincinnati, right? Yeah, you want to be able to run the ball. You want to have success on the ground. You want guys that can run block as well. But you're trying to protect number 9, particularly there on the interior where you've struggled in recent years. Certainly think Scherff is a guy that could come in and help you with that. Now, of note, he's definitely going to be a 1-year guy. This guy you bring in on a 1-year deal. And Scherff hasn't necessarily come out and said this, but he's a guy that's going to be kind of at the ring-chasing part of his career. And that's totally fine because he's still playing at a high level. He's put in the years, put in 10 years in the league. I would expect him to bounce around from several teams here as he closes out his career looking for a world championship. And what better place to do that with Joe Burrow? So I think Cincinnati has to be an intriguing option for Brandon Scherff. I personally would really like to go after him. I think he could be a very valuable addition to your football team. Leads to the pinned comment of today's video. Name a free agent offensive lineman you want to sign. Let me know in the comment section. By the way, Jay Morrison has come up with most of these names here. Does a nice job covering the Bengals for Bengals Sports Illustrated. Tremendous job. He came up with a lot of these names, so that's kind of where we got this list from. But regardless, get down to the pinned comment. Let me know what you guys think. Give me some names. If that ad comes here on YouTube, totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down there and sound off for us. Next guy here is Teven Jenkins, who is an offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears at this point in his NFL career. And the Bengals do kind of have some ties to Jenkins, which is kind of interesting. Back in the 2021 draft, if you guys remember, Cincinnati traded the 38th overall pick for the 46th overall pick and 2 fourth-round selections. Well, the Bears ended up taking Jenkins at 39, and he's carved out a solid NFL career to this point. And what did the Bengals do at 38? Drafted Jackson Carman. And I don't think there's really anything else I need to say other than that. Obviously, a disaster. Their 2 fourth-round picks were Tyler Shelvin and Deontay Smith as well. I do think Deontay Smith maybe would have been able to produce this year or have kind of carve out a role for himself if he had not gotten hurt early on. you don't know, Tyler Shelvin, he had a cup of coffee in the league, and he's been out. He doesn't play, or he doesn't work in football anymore, I should say. So really just a tremendous whiff by the Cincinnati Bengals. Jenkins is a guy that PFF had in one of their top 15 guard pass protectors. Again, that's what I'm looking for. Pass pro, pass pro, pass pro. Has done a nice job. But the injuries, which we'll get into with several of these guys, are a big red flag for Jenkins. Had a hip and an ankle injury in 2024, caused him to miss some time. Had calf and concussion issues in 23, caused him to miss some time. And also missed 4 games in 2022 with hip and neck injuries. Certainly a red flag there at the interior offensive line. Kappa and Volson have always been available for you. They don't have injury issues. They just haven't played to that standard that you need them to. Medical's certainly a concern for a guy like Jenkins, but Spotrac estimates that his market value will be around that $10 million range. That's really what Kappa's is as well, and he's probably going to get cut, so he definitely could be a potential replacement for Alex Kappa. Help us get to 17,000 subscribers. We are more than halfway there as far as getting past the 16,000 subscriber mark. Still need over 400, though, to make it happen. We'll be here all off-season long. We'll have free agent videos for you guys all throughout kind of this lead-up to free agency. We'll have that covered as well. Draft stuff, plenty of exciting things going on despite the fact the season is wrapped up. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Third guy we're going to be discussing here on today's show is Mekhi Becton, who, of course, is now a Super Bowl champion and really had a solid game with Philadelphia last night on their way to Super Bowl glory, taking down the Kansas City Chiefs. He did get banged up in that game, but I think he was playing really solid leading up to that point. Now, of note, Cincinnati had him in for a visit last offseason and ultimately decided to pass on him. So that's kind of noteworthy, right? They passed on him last year when he really was at a low price. And, this year, I would be surprised if they kind of went back to that because he's gotten a lot more expensive, that is for sure. But credit to Becton, no doubt. He's the guy that came in the league as a tackle. He was a 2020 first-round pick, missed a ton of time. Again, going to be talking about injuries a lot here to end today's show. Missed 16 games in 2021 and missed all of 2022. So that obviously is a massive red flag there. But again, this is a guy that came into the league as a tackle and he went to Philadelphia and was able to bump into the interior and was their starting guard for the majority of the season. Did a really nice job. Keep in mind, he got to work with Jeff Stoutland in Philadelphia, who's highly regarded as probably the best offensive line coach in the National Football League. Is Scott Peters that caliber offensive line coach? No, but hopefully he could potentially, groom Becton into, settling into that guard spot, which, by the way, again, thought he did a really nice job of doing that here. But the main thing for me is the fact that Cincinnati passed on him last offseason when he was cheap. Now he's more expensive. Would be shocked to see them bring in Mekhi Becton. What's your interest level in Mekhi Becton? Let me know in the comments section. Scale it for me 1 to 10. This is a guy that you saw enough in Philadelphia. You want him to come here in Cincinnati and protect Joe Burrow. Let me know. Get those 10s in the comments if that is the case. But scale it for me. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Guy number 4 here, James Daniels of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, potential, awkwardness there. Not something, by the way, Cincinnati is afraid to do. Mike Hilton, of course, was a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he, of course, came in with Cincinnati and has been really a cornerstone of this Bengals franchise. But this is a guy that played his ball, coming into the league with the Chicago Bears before eventually moving over to Pittsburgh. Was drafted in the second round in 2018. Past 3 seasons with the Steelers, but he tore his Achilles in week 4. And, an Achilles injury for all professional athletes is brutal, but particularly for offensive linemen, right? Because they have such big bodies, such a big, center of gravity. Obviously, healing something like that with your Achilles can be very, very challenging. And that certainly, is risky for a team to bring in a guy like James Daniels, who, by the way, has a lot of experience in the AFC North, which Zach Taylor has talked a lot about, right? When he was hiring his coaches, he wanted guys that understood what the AFC North is like. I imagine he's going to have that same thought process when it comes to free agency as well. And the reason I threw him on this list is because Cincinnati obviously is going to have to spend a ton of money this offseason. Guys like T. Higgins, hopefully Jamar Chase, hopefully Trey Hendrickson, right? So you're probably thinking they're not going to bring in really a high value in terms of dollar amount guy at the interior offensive line. Well, you can get a guy like James Daniels for very, very cheap because of that injury he suffered last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So definitely noteworthy, and I think perhaps a guy Cincinnati could pursue. Short-term deal, kind of a prove-it deal type thing. Not much guaranteed money there. Could potentially go after James Daniels. Final guy on our list here for today's show is Kevin Zeitler. We have talked about Kevin Zeitler previously here on Bengals Breakdown, and I had news for you. We're going to continue to be talking about Kevin Zeitler. Zeitler, of course, was a Cincinnati Bengals first-round draft pick back in 2012. I think I got that year right. Spent his first 4 years here with Cincinnati and has bounced around a little bit since then. The main concern with Zeitler is that there was perhaps an opportunity for a reunion between the Cincinnati Bengals and Kevin Zeitler back in 2021, but you lowballed him, and he kind of got offended by what you offered him, and he decided, no, I'm going to go to a division rival in the Baltimore Ravens and really have a great run there. Of course, most recently was on a one-year deal with Detroit and did a tremendous job there as well. Zeitler, of course, getting up there in his age, around the mid-30s as well. In a lot of ways, reminds me of Scherff, the first guy we talked about here on today's video. And I think that low ball could be a potential issue. This guy, again, was drafted here years ago to start out his career. Is he going to be willing to come back, even after you lowballed him several years ago? I think you got to have interest if you're Kevin Zeitler, right? Perhaps playing with Joe Burrow. But you're in a good spot right here in Detroit. Certainly can win a championship there as well. We'll see if Detroit wants to bring him back. I can't imagine they wouldn't because of the year that he had in 2024. That's a guy that's an absolute horse, right? He doesn't get hurt, contrary to some of the guys we talked about on this list. He started at least 15 games in 10 straight seasons, and PFF ranked him as the 6th best guard, despite the fact he is getting a little long in the tooth. So I absolutely wouldn't be intrigued when it came to potentially bringing in Kevin Zeitler. This is a guy that makes your offensive line better immediately, and Joe Burrow would really be able to thrive behind a guy like Kevin Zeitler, no doubt. Make sure you guys give me a follow on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. Also seeing some more short form content up there as well these days. So give me a follow. Trying to get to 600 followers here by the end of month of February at StoneShields_.